Hi everyone, it's Linnea here for InkOn3, and today I'm going to be using Atelier Inks to do a bit of heat embossed watercoloring. So I'm going to start here by heat embossing this big floral image from the Concord & Ninth Heartfelt Blossom stamp set. I'm working on watercolor cardstock, and this watercolor cardstock is a smooth cardstock. It's from LDRS Creative, and it's my favorite watercolor cardstock. I like to heat emboss my images when I'm going to do watercoloring. It creates little wells and it helps to keep my colors contained. But I wanted to have a black image. So my favorite way to do that is to stamp with the Blackout Hybrid Detail ink, clean my stamp but leave it in position, and then I'm going to come in with the Juicy Watermark Embossing ink and stamp right over top of that black ink. And then I can sprinkle on some clear embossing powder and heat set that image, and I will have those little wells perfect for watercoloring. There are so many ways to use Atelier inks. I like to stamp with them, I like to ink blend with them, but I really do love to watercolor with them as well. Now, I forget because I haven't used these to watercolor in a long time. You really don't need a lot of pigment. So I just took my Goddess Green ink pad and smushed that down on my glass work surface, and you're going to see here that truly you don't need this much, especially since there's not a lot of green portions to my images. I'm just coloring the leaves green. As I color, I'm going to do kind of a messy watercolor look, so I'm not going all the way to the edge. I wanted to leave some white spaces and just kind of make this look a little bit whimsical. At first I thought that I was going to come in and just kind of add some dark areas and then blend that out with a lighter color, but in the end I decided to create a more solid watercolor look. And you'll see that as I continue coloring, especially with my pink and yellow flowers. So here we go with my yellow flowers. I'm using the Bee Sting Yellow Atelier ink. Again, I just smushed them down onto my glass work surface, and here you can see me just dropping in some color. I'm working on dry cardstock. You can definitely do a wet on wet technique if you want, but I'm just going in with my wet paint onto my dry cardstock and coloring in the petals of these flowers, and again, not going up to the very edge. I used the Bee Sting Yellow for some of the flowers, and then I also switched over to Sweet Petunia Pink for some of the flowers. Once they were all colored in, I grabbed a third Atelier ink color, or I guess a fourth because I already had that green. So I used Trinity Teal to color in this frame. And you're going to see here that even though I'm using a small brush, I'm using a size 2 paintbrush, I get out of the lines just a tiny bit. Not enough that anybody's really going to notice, but enough that it kind of bugged me a little bit. So I'll show you how I fix that. There's a couple ways to fix that. You can let this dry, and then you can come in and add some just clear water over your mistake and kind of dab that up with a paper towel. But I decided to add a little bit of blue shading around my frame. So I used that same Trinity Teal ink, but I super watered it down, so it's going to be a really light blue. And then again, I'm just messy watercoloring around my frame. And as I find where I kind of went outside of my frame a little bit, I'm going to work that area and pull that color into the kind of outer frame so that it doesn't look like I made a mistake. Once I'm done watercoloring, I'm going to grab the coordinating Concord & Ninth Heartfelt Blossoms die set, and it has this large die that's going to cut out the center of these flowers. I'll tape that in place and run that through my die cutting machine, and I think this would be really fun to create a shaker card. I'm going to keep this just kind of a regular card today, but it would be really fun for a shaker window. Now when I stamped my original image, I didn't position my cardstock quite correctly, so I had that blank edge there on the left. That's okay, I just trimmed that right off and nobody will know. I wanted to have just a simple pinstripe background behind my flowers, something that would add some detail but not really distract from the image. So I'm using the Altenew pinstripe stamp set, but if you have just striped pattern paper, that would work just as well. I'm inking this up with the Blackout Hybrid Detail ink and stamping that down. And you're going to see here that I got not perfect results. And normally, because this is such a big stamp, I would ink up and stamp again. But because I have those flowers that are kind of colored loosey-goosey with those white areas, the not perfect background actually looked really good with my florals. I wanted to cut a sentiment, also included in the Concord and Ninth Heartfelt Blossoms die set, and I wanted it to match perfectly to my watercolored background. So I'm taking that Trinity Teal Atelier ink and just blending over a piece of white cardstock. Again, this isn't going to be pretty, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm die cutting from this, and so you're not going to know. It's a good way to get perfectly matching cardstock. I'm going to add some foam tape behind my floral frame and then line this up onto my pinstripe background, and now you can see those stripes peeking through those flowers, and I'm just going to chop off the excess there. Here's my die. I cut the white shadow, or the shadow from white cardstock, and then I have that Trinity Teal Thinking of You on top. I finished off this card with some pearls scattered about my background, and this card is finished. I hope this inspires you to grab your Atelier inks and use them for some beautiful watercoloring. All of the InkOn3 products I used are listed and linked in the video description below. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!